Okay, so now we want to start our project. So I've laid out all of the beads that are in this kit for the happy hour design. And we've got our A, our B, our C, and our D, and I just put them in little piles. Yours came in little 2x2 baggies. Typically they come in the tubes like this. And all of your pattern, the paper that you got that has all your directions on it, has the colors listed. So that's really nice information to know. So you could type that into the search on our website or come into the shop with that if you decide that you like a lot of these colors and want to get an entire tube of them. So we've got those. I've got them laid out. I've got my needle, my size 12 needle, and we're going to use our KO thread. That's the Kevlar thread. And we're using a color natural. And we use this because of the sharpness of our delicas. And we use our nice sharp scissors to cut with. And we just thread our needle. And you pull a tail through the needle, the eye of the needle. Doesn't have to be too long. I bend that thread kind of through the needle. Okay, and then we want to get started. Let's take a look at our pattern. So we see here that all of the numbers are in a comma, or in parentheses, I'm sorry, and then have a letter, and then a parenthesis with a number in it, and then the letter, and the letter corresponds to the color in your pattern, and so forth. And then you'll also notice that as we go down the pattern, that then you'll see parentheses with the number and your color, and then a comma, parentheses with the number and the letter and a comma, and so forth. And the parentheses denotes weaving back through a bead from the previous row. Whereas up here, you'll notice when we start, because it's our very first round, that there's no commas because we string them all together at the same time. And you'll also notice that these are called rounds and not rows. Although some people do use them interchangeably, but they're called rounds because we go around and we work our way from the center out. In other weaving projects, like brick stitch, you would work in rows, but this is not like that. It's a triangle, so we're going to do that. This is known as the pinwheel pattern, and it is by Bathing Beauty's Beads, but it's inspired by Daria Tittenberger, who was an instructor from a class that I took, who does contemporary geometric beadwork. Her work is amazing and so much fun to do, and inspired and based on origami. You should look up contemporary geometric beadwork sometime and see all the beautiful pieces that people make that move. I made an origami piece that you can fold inside out of many triangles. So it's pretty fun. So let's get started. Okay, we're looking at the pattern, round one. We want to pick up one of A, one of B, and one of C. So I'm just going to pick them up. And I'm hanging on to them, and I'm just going to guide them down my thread all the way until I leave about 4 inches of a tail. And then I'm going to bring my needle around to the very first bead, and I'm going to thread through going towards the second bead that I strung, but only going through the first one. And I'll just pull it nice and tight. So we'll pull it Perfect. Okay. So you can kind of see that that starts to make the beginning of a triangle. Okay. So now we're going to go on to the second row. So we are coming out of our green bead from our first row. So our letter A. And we're going to pick up 2 of letter A because that's what it says in round 2. In the parentheses, we're picking up 2 of A. So that's this green one. And then we pick up 2 of A, and then there's a comma. And remember that comma means we're going to go back through a bead from the previous round. So that's going to be that translucent gold colored bead. So I'm going to go through that, and I'm going to pull it tight. So see, I'm coming out of the translucent bead now. And now I'm going to pick up 2 of color B because there's the number 2 in the parentheses of color B. And then there's that comma, and that comma means we're going to go back through a bead from the previous row, which is that opaque bronze colored one. So I'm going to go through it and pull tight. Okay, so now it's time to pull 2 of that color C, the 2 in parentheses of color C, and we're taking the 2 at the same time. And now you'll notice that it says step up after. And so the step up is going to mean we need to step up into the third round. So I'm going to go from the, I just strung 2 on that are hanging on my thread. You can't see them on this photo. And then I'm going to run through those 2 green ones. So see, there's 3 greens. I'm going to go through the 2 that are closest to the right of the screen. So I covered up the one you don't go through. So I'm going to go through those 2 that are showing. So I'm going to take my needle and I'm stepping up. So we go. So see how I'm going through both of those? Step up into it. Okay. And you're going to be ending up coming out of a green to get into your third round. So it looks a little bit, it's kind of like a little algae triangle, right? It's kind of forming itself, little amoeba, right? So we're going to pick up in our third round. You'll notice this is where we introduce our color D, this really beautiful purple color right over here, into the mix. Because in the third round, if we look at our pattern, it has us doing 2A, comma, remember that means we're going to go through a bead from the previous round, 1D, that's our purple, comma, going through a bead from the previous round, and so forth, stepping up. So let's take a look. All right, so we're going to pick up 2 of A, and we're gonna go, so see how, before I thread through it, when I hold it like this, you can kind of see that there's this valley here between the 2 green beads. So we're just trying to fill that valley when we add these 2 beads. So I added my 2 beads, and now I'm gonna go through that green. And now they sit on top, kind of making a point in a way. And now I'm gonna pick up my D. And I'm gonna go through that next taupe translucent bead that is kind of at the same level as the green, right? It's in that same round. So we're gonna go through that one and pull. Okay, nice and tight. Okay, and now we're coming out of that translucent bead, and I'm gonna pick up 2B, 2 of letter B. I picked them up. And now I'm gonna go through the next translucent bead because I'm filling in that valley. Pull it tight, like that. Okay, and now I want to add my color D because it's 2B, comma, 1D. And I'm going to go through that bronze one. I'm going to fill the valley and go through the bronze one that's at the same, it's on the same round that I just came out of. Now I'm coming out of that bronze one, and I'm going to pick up 2 of letter C. And go into that bronze one right here, that one right there. Pull tight. And then we're going to pick up our last D for this round, and it's time to step up. So remember, step up is those 2, it's going to be those 2 last beads, those 2 last green beads. So do you see which 2? Those 2 right there. And come out and step up in to your 4th round. Okay, so now we're in the 4th round. So now with the 4th round, the nice thing about this pattern, it's kind of fun, is that you'll notice that, so now we're on the 4th round, and it has 7 rounds total, that there's 12 beads in total, 3 groups of 4. So it's the 4th round, and there's 3 groups of 4 beads. So we've got 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. And then when we get to the 5th round, it's going to be 3 groups of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. And so forth. So it helps kind of keep you in that space of knowing which round you're at. So when we're going into the 4th round, so that means we're going to have 2 of color A, and then we'll go through a bead, pick up 1 D, go through a bead, pick up another D, go through a bead. So I have my 2A on, and I'm going to go back through. And then, like I said, by the time you get done round 3, it's much easier to hold this piece. You can start to see the triangle forming. You can see how it's going to lie, how everything's going to settle in. So pick up my 1D. And now I get to weave back through a D, which is kind of fun. And then I'm going to pick up another D. And go through a taupe and pull tight. And now I'm going to pick up 2 of B, which is that clear taupe, that translucent taupe. And I'm going to go back through that taupe right there. Just filling in that little valley and helping to make a point, right? Okay, so now we're going to pick up a D, 1 D, and we're going to go through the D from the previous round. And now I'm going to pick up that matte bronze golden color. Nope, I'm lying. See, that's what happens. I'm going to pick up another D because I'm on the 4th round. Then I'm going to pick up 2 of my color C. Okay, so keep on going. And we're going to pick up a D. And then this is our last round of round 4. Pick up another D. And now we're going to step up. So stepping up means we're going to go through those last 2 greens. So we have, if we look at this, when I say the last 2 greens, on the right side, do you see the 2 at the top, the 2 on the right row, on this row, the last 2 at the top? So I'm going to go through that one. I like to go through them together, and that one. And then I'll pull. And now we've stepped into round 5. Okay, so I will come back when you are at the end of round 7 and help you finish this piece.